On the morning of October 20th, 2025, millions awoke to a world that felt strangely muted. The familiar buzz of notifications was gone, replaced by an unsettling silence. For many, the first sign was subtle: a phone that wouldn't refresh, a smart speaker that didn't respond, or a news app that simply spun in circles. It was as if the digital heartbeat of the planet had skipped a beat, leaving everyone in a state of confusion and disbelief. Coffee apps wouldn't load, banking apps froze, and social media feeds were eerily blank. People tapped their screens, restarted their devices, and checked their Wi-Fi. But nothing worked. The digital world, usually so reliable, had become a maze of error messages and empty pages. The digital backbone of daily life had snapped. In homes, offices, and on city streets, frustration grew as people realized this was no ordinary glitch. The invisible threads that connected everyone, at work, at home, and on the go, had suddenly unraveled. Commuters couldn't pay for parking, office workers lost access to essential tools, and smart home devices went dark. Even the most mundane routines, like adjusting a thermostat or checking a calendar, became impossible. The world was forced to slow down, and people looked to each other for answers. The issue wasn't with individual connections. Web browsers worked, but the destinations had vanished. Websites that had always been just a click away were now unreachable, as if they'd been erased from existence overnight. This was a single massive failure, not isolated glitches. News headlines blared about a global outage, and IT professionals scrambled to diagnose the problem. The scale was unprecedented. No one could remember a time when so much of the internet had gone dark at once. Streaming, logistics, and communication services all went offline, exposing our dependence on invisible infrastructure. Video calls froze mid-sentence, warehouses sat idle, and entertainment vanished. The world was reminded just how much daily life relies on the cloud. As the hours dragged on, the culprit emerged: Amazon Web Services, or AWS. The backbone of the modern internet, AWS powered everything from small businesses to global giants. Its failure sent shockwaves through every industry. The world realized that countless services, from airlines to food delivery, all relied on the same digital foundation. The outage revealed just how interconnected and vulnerable our systems had become. When AWS faltered, the entire skyscraper shook. The digital infrastructure that supported modern life was suddenly exposed, and the consequences rippled across the globe. This wasn't a cyber attack or natural disaster, but a subtle technical fault deep in the cloud. A single point of failure had brought the world to a standstill, highlighting the risks of centralization. The day the internet stood still revealed just how fragile our connected world truly is. It was a wake-up call, a reminder that the systems we trust every day are only as strong as their weakest link, and that our digital lives are more vulnerable than we ever imagined. To truly grasp the impact of the outage, we first need to understand what AWS is and why it's so important in today's digital world. While most people know Amazon for its massive online store, its real engine of growth is Amazon Web Services, or AWS. AWS is a cloud computing platform that rents out everything from raw computing power to storage and databases, serving companies of all sizes across the globe. Instead of spending millions to build and maintain their own data centers, businesses can simply rent what they need from Amazon, scaling up or down instantly as their needs change. This flexibility is a game-changer for both small startups and massive corporations. AWS was originally created to help Amazon handle the huge spikes in traffic during holiday shopping seasons. Today, it's the backbone for everything from tiny tech startups to major government agencies, powering websites, apps, and services we use every day. The main reasons companies flock to AWS are its flexibility, reliability, and the potential for significant cost savings. Businesses only pay for what they use, and they can trust AWS to keep their services running smoothly. Every time you stream a movie, order food online, or book a flight, there's a good chance AWS is working behind the scenes to make it happen. It's become an invisible but essential part of our daily digital lives. This centralization means that thousands of companies, from the smallest app developers to the world's largest enterprises, all rely on the same digital infrastructure. The convenience and efficiency AWS offers are immense, but so is the risk. When so many organizations depend on a single provider, any disruption can have far-reaching consequences. When AWS experiences a problem, the effects ripple across the globe, disrupting businesses, services, and even daily routines for millions of people. The recent outage made it clear just how much of the internet's backbone depends on a single provider, and how vulnerable our connected world can be when that foundation is shaken. At the center of the massive outage was a failure in the domain name system, or DNS, often called the Internet's phone book. DNS is a critical, yet often invisible part of how we use the web every day. It's the system that quietly works in the background, making sure that when you type a website's name, you actually end up at the right place. DNS translates easy-to-remember website names, like example.com, into the numerical IP addresses that computers use to identify each other. Without DNS, your browser wouldn't know where to go, and the internet would be a confusing mess of numbers instead of familiar names. Imagine if, instead of typing google.com, you had to remember and enter a string of numbers like 142.250.190.78 for every site you visit. For most people, that would be nearly impossible, making the internet far less accessible and user-friendly. On October 20th, a major disruption hit when AWS's DNS servers lost their ability to look up addresses. This wasn't just a simple glitch, it was triggered by a breakdown in another Amazon service, DynamoDB, which DNS relied on for critical data. When DynamoDB failed, it set off a chain reaction that crippled DNS operations. Suddenly, thousands of websites and online services became unreachable. It wasn't that the sites themselves were broken or offline, but rather no one could find them because the digital address book had gone missing. It was as if every business in a bustling city suddenly vanished from the map, leaving people wandering with no idea where to go. The websites and services still existed, but the directions to reach them were lost, leaving users stuck and frustrated. This single point of failure rippled outward, causing huge swaths of the internet to effectively disappear for hours. Businesses, news sites, and even essential services were suddenly out of reach for millions. The outage was a stark reminder of how much we rely on these hidden systems. One technical glitch was all it took to erase the digital world's signposts, showing just how fragile the internet's foundations can be. The DNS failure was like flipping a critical switch in a vast power grid. Modern apps rely on interconnected microservices. If one fails, the whole system can collapse. A banking app might need several AWS services to function. If one is unreachable, the app fails. The same goes for airlines, food delivery, and more. The outage exposed how deeply everything is intertwined. Even Amazon's own tools for fixing the problem were affected, slowing recovery. The result: a digital traffic jam, where services waited for responses that never came. The initial glitch triggered a cascade, causing secondary and tertiary failures. Like a highway accident causing citywide gridlock, the AWS DNS failure created chaos far beyond its origin. The event revealed the hidden fragility of our digital infrastructure. The AWS outage wasn't the first digital domino to fall. In July 2024, a faulty CrowdStrike update crashed millions of Windows computers, grounding flights and halting hospitals. AT&T's 11-hour meltdown left millions without cellular service, crippling the gig economy. In 2021, a single customer's settings change took down major websites via Fastly. Each incident shows how minor errors in centralized systems can cause global chaos. The lesson: our interconnected world is more fragile than we think. The internet was designed to be decentralized and resilient. But today, most of it runs on a handful of cloud giants: Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. Convenience and cost drove companies to centralize, creating digital, walled gardens. When a critical region like AWS US East 1 fails, the impact is immediate and widespread. Many companies put all their digital eggs in one basket, skipping redundancy for simplicity. The result: a brittle ecosystem, vulnerable to single points of failure. The promise of a decentralized web has faded, replaced by a fragile cloud oligopoly. One provider's failure can silence millions. The outage shattered the illusion of internet resilience. Experts quickly ruled out cyberattacks. This was a technical fault, not sabotage. Outages like this are usually caused by mundane errors, buggy updates, misconfigurations, or internal miscommunications. AWS, Azure, and Google all face similar risks at their massive scale. The real problem is overconcentration. Too much of the internet depends on too few providers. While cloud tools exist for redundancy, many companies skip them to save money. The result is a fragile ecosystem where one provider's failure becomes everyone's crisis. The outage is a wake-up call to rethink how we build digital resilience. By 6:35 a.m., Amazon fixed the core DNS issue, but recovery was slow and messy. Services didn't snap back instantly. Many remained down for hours. Cached failure responses had to be cleared worldwide, delaying restoration. As everything tried to reconnect at once, new bottlenecks emerged, like a city's traffic lights all turning green at once. The surge strained AWS's just-repaired systems, causing more slowdowns. Full recovery took most of the day. For businesses, the damage was done: lost sales, broken supply chains, and shaken trust. The event forced companies to confront their technical vulnerabilities. Recovery wasn't a simple switch, it was a delicate, gradual process. The outage proved that fixing the cloud is never as easy as flipping a switch. The AWS outage is a call to rethink our digital future. Providers must keep improving their systems to prevent cascading failures. Companies need to embrace true redundancy, spreading operations across multiple regions or even multiple clouds. It's more complex and costly, but the price of downtime is higher. Multi-cloud strategies offer ultimate protection, especially for critical sectors. We must design for failure, building systems that can withstand disruptions. The internet's future depends on learning from these failures and investing in resilience. Only then can we ensure that the next digital domino doesn't topple the world.